And Jay's going to be.
Welcome to Toastmasters Club 9958. And today we have for our thought and pledge none other than Jaye Majors.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening, everyone. Great to see you guys. Good evening. All right, let me see if I can give you something to think about that I hope fits in a little bit with our theme tonight. Something to remember. Magnanimous people have no vanity, they have no jealousy, and they feed on the true and solid wherever they find it. And what is more, they find it everywhere. This was by Van Wyck Brooks. Okay, let's do our pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And now, the Toastmaster for the President, Jaye Majors. Welcome Central Florida's Facilitators Club 9958, everyone. I do believe we have some guests this evening, and my first order of business is to have our guests each stand, introduce yourselves, tell us what brought you here, and shut that thing off.
You didn't tell us the silence.
Yeah, silence the cell phones. But I would love to hear from our guests, and welcome.
Hello everyone, I am Akin Omi. I'm new to Altamont Springs. I moved here in February. I work with Adventist Health System, and I'm happy to be here today.
Very good.
Hello everyone, my name is Lami, and I'm here because this guy invited me. Yeah, I'm glad to be here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess a little bit of order of business, because we do have guests in case you need to take advantage of some of the facilities.
You already did.
Okay, so you know, I don't need to deal with that any further. The first thing beyond this that I would like to do, we have a member of our club that has just reached a milestone that we are all very proud of, and I would like to congratulate him and present him with this beautiful certificate suitable for framing. Julian Cotto, Advanced Communicator Silver.
Look at that badge. Whoa. Advanced communication.
Thanks, heavy.
They're actually on real nice paper with the silver seals and all. So you too have this to look forward to. Okay. Everything okay out there? A couple of things I want to make sure I speak up about before we move forward. A very important thing is coming up for our club. It's called our elections. And we are slating a board of officers that I believe are going to be pretty good. We still need to confirm a couple, and I will provide the list out to you with what we're doing. But I want to remind you, if anybody has the time and would like to take one of the positions, please let us know.
The elections are next week.
Yep, the elections are next week.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we know what positions are still semi-vacant? I mean, we have names and after some.
We need to announce the whole slate. Okay. So for president, it would be Toni. For treasurer, it would be me. For VP Ed, Gail. And you guys correct me if I'm missing anything at this point. Julian is VP membership. We have a quasi-commitment for the VP of PR, Jessie. It's a commitment? Okay. She's gonna be gone a lot, and Renee said she would help out, or support, be her backup on that. So we've got that one pretty well nailed down. We do need sergeant at arms and secretary. And secretary of all of them is probably the toughest, most tedious job. So we need secretary and sergeant at arms. But both Gail and Toni have fathoms of stuff that can help you to be able to do, and templates and all of that, that makes that job much easier. So all you have to do is follow the templates. And if you're not going to be here, have somebody fill in for you. So any interest? Don? A little pressure there.
Sergeant at arms?
Either position. Charlie, would you like to do?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. I know you'll be backed up. All right, you guys know what we have available. Pardeep, would you be interested in?
Not at the moment, maybe in future I would volunteer, and I know I can really do it at the moment.
Okay, very good. Roy?
Possibly, I'll,
Okay, we can talk. All right, so that's the slate we have so far. Now, moving on, let me introduce our Toastmaster for the evening. Toni Gittles has been a member of Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club since 2004. She is proud to have earned the highest individual award by Toastmasters International, Distinguished Toastmaster, and is working on her second DTM, which will be completed in 2018. Toni is Area 42 Director, assisting members and officers in 5 clubs in Lake Mary, Altamont Springs, and Apopka to reach their goals, and is currently sponsoring 2 new clubs. Professionally, she earned degrees from the University of Florida, Northwestern University, and Rollins College. Her career as an audiologist, educator, and hearing aid company executive spanned 36 years. Please welcome Toni Gittles.
Hi!
Hi!
Hi in the back! How are you? There are some changes to the agenda, and I'm going to introduce some different procedures, so let's see what you think of those. I know, uh-oh. So you have your agenda in front of you. Turn it over. Well, you got an extra agenda?
We got it.
All right, turn it over. Stand up, please, and let's read the club mission together. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Thank you.
That's not part of the mission.
Thank you. Please be seated. Many of us in this room are advanced Toastmasters and have served in leadership and have visited or belonged to other clubs. And there's so many ideas out there about how to develop inspirational meetings, more effective meetings. And one of the focuses tonight is, my topic is, what does it mean to be generous? With a focus on how can we be more generous to each other in the meeting. And so that's going to, I don't know what Charlie's questions are because it's a secret. But I know Jonathan's giving a speech on generosity, and I have a few remarks, and we'll have some interaction as well. Let's start though with the agenda, because some people did not show up who have been assigned roles. So let's see where we are with that. Roy has volunteered to be our timer this evening. Are you also grammarian?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Roy. We really appreciate that.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Pardeep has switched roles and is our supervisor of elections. Pardeep, can you also be the odd counter? Or would you rather not? Because you want to develop some other skills this evening. All right. Anybody want to be an odd counter? Oh, yeah, we can switch. You want to do the odd counter until you come up here and then we'll switch? All right, thank you, Susan. So Susan and Toni. You'll be the odd counter. Thank you so much. We also have a new role added. It's the Quizmaster. And we'll go through these in a second to let our generous advisors, which is our functionary technical table this evening, describe their roles. We have as evaluator number 2, Jaye Majors. Instead of our third speech tonight, I've inserted a short group discussion about how to have effective meetings. And this was generated, again, out of the idea of how can we be more generous in the meetings, as well as Pardeep's email to get input from the members on how we can be even more effective. To me, we used to use the term Pardeep world-class club. When the club was started, Tim Chastain's vision was to be a world-class club, a model for every Toastmaster club in the world. So my vision is kind of going down that road as well. Pardeep, I'd like you to give us our inspirational message for this evening. Please welcome Pardeep. So we have 2 minutes on the clock.
So today's message is about slowing down and enjoying your life. So it's not only the scenery that we miss when we go too fast. We also lose the track of where we are headed and why. So often we become so focused on the finish line that we fail to enjoy the journey. I'll share this experience from an old man. There's a picture, but I'll read the message as you can read it. He says, first I was trying to finish my high school and start college. And then I was trying to finish college and start working. Then I was trying to marry and have children. And then I was trying for my children to grow and grow old enough so I could get back to work. Then I was trying to retire, and now I'm dying. And suddenly I realized I forgot to live. Please don't let this happen to you. Appreciate your current situation and enjoy every day of the journey. To make money, we lose health, and then to restore our health, we lose money. We live as if we are never going to die, and we die as if we never did. Let's slow down and appreciate all the miracles that we have in everyday life and spend quality time with the people we love. They won't always be there. And today and this week, my challenge to you is to try to find a way, somewhere, somehow, in your busy schedule, to just slow down and enjoy the miracles and spend the time with people you love. And by doing that, I'm sure we all can be more generous in our day-to-day lives too. Thank you.
Thank you, Pardeep. Those of you familiar with our agenda will know that that is normally called the educational moment. Somehow, I knew Pardeep was going to be inspirational, not so much educational, so I called it the inspirational moment. And I really appreciate it. That was very positive and uplifting. We have a technical table today. I have called them our generous advisors. Let us hear from our generous advisors. Roy, let's start with you. You have 2 roles. Can you tell us about the grammarian and the word of the day?
As grammarian, I've chosen word of the day, which is benefactor. There should be a sheet laid out in front of you on the table. I will keep track of those who use the word of the day, and those who do not will be fined 25 cents. Guests and members who have not yet completed their icebreaker will not be fined. I will also listen for colorful imagery and use of exceptional vocabulary and grammar, and will suggest improvements in grammar as needed.
And for our guests, can you tell us the purpose of having a word of the day?
The word of the day, everybody who's a member or everybody in the room should make an attempt to use the word of the day throughout the evening. So if you do not use the word of the day, we actually fine you 25 cents, unless of course you're a guest or have not given your icebreaker yet. So really the challenge is just the thought is just to challenge the members to think on the fly and spontaneously and try to insert that word of the day into their delivery.
And to perhaps learn a new word.
And perhaps
Yeah.
learn a new word.
Thank you. Please stay standing, Roy, and tell us about your time of duties.
Absolutely. One of the skills Toastmasters practice is expressing a thought within a specific amount of time. As timer, I am responsible for monitoring time for each speaker in each meeting segment. I will operate the timing signal, indicating to each speaker how long he or she has been speaking. For prepared speeches, to qualify for voting, speakers must speak not less than 30 seconds under the range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over the range maximum. I will turn on the green light at the range maximum. Minimum. The yellow light at the mid-range, and the red light at the range maximum. For table topic speakers, to qualify, speakers must speak at least 1 minute and no more than 2 minutes, 30 seconds. The green light will be at 1 minute, yellow light at 1.5 minutes, and the red light at 2 minutes. For evaluations, to qualify, the evaluators must speak a minimum of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and a maximum of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Green light at 2 minutes, yellow light at 2.5 minutes, and the red light at 3 minutes. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Miss Susan, tell us about the Wizard of Oz.
In order to improve the quality of our speech, the odd counter's job is to make us aware of disruptive audible crutches such as you know, and double clutches, which are the repetition of a word while the speaker searches for their next thought, such as I am. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words. Okay, bridge words such as and, so, or like, and I will give a report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Supervisor of Elections, Pardeep, you're on again.
As vote counter, I'll pick up your ballots for the best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and most improved speaker. I'll tell you the results for award presentations at the end of the meeting. I'll also pick up any comments you might have written for these wonderful speakers or any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've added a role called Quizmaster, which I've seen done really in a fun way in other meetings. Gail, can you tell us what a Quizmaster does?
I am learning this myself. I have not ever heard the term.
Wait, you told me you did. You told me you knew what to do. Go ahead, you're on.
She wrote it out. Listen to speeches and the table topics, write down a few questions and ask the group before the Functionary Report. The members can shout out the questions, the answers. Quizmaster, first time doing this.
Let's give it a shot.
Yes.
I thought it would make the meeting more entertaining. It's always added a lot of fun over at a pumpkin foliage club. We have a guest that has entered the room since we started. We appreciate your being here. Would you like to introduce yourself, or we want to sit and listen?
I'll listen.
All right, well, thank you for being here. I want to inform the timer that one of your roles is to also keep the Toastmaster or the person at the lectern on schedule. So if you've got a watch on or you've got a timer, please turn on the red light when the sections are over and the next section is supposed to start.
Need to turn it on now then.
Yes. Are you with me, Murray?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't realize you were talking.
Okay, one of your roles as timer, which we haven't been implementing in this club, which would be very valuable, is to pay attention to the timeline, and when we're through with a section, turn the red light on, so the person up here leading that section knows that it's time to end and move on.
Want to keep us on track?
Keep us on time. Yes, that's actually a description in the manual, and I'd like to see at least that implemented for this meeting and see how that goes. I'll take one more. I'll take 30 seconds. Generosity is not solely based on one's economic status, but instead includes the individual's pure intentions of looking out for society's common good and giving from the heart. Generosity should reflect the individual's passion to help others. And I wrote out like 10 definitions, so I don't know where that one comes from. Let's move on to our loving presenters. These are prepared speeches, they're manual speeches by topics that are chosen by the individual that is going to come up and speak. Here to practice and polish his storytelling skills, Stephen is also reprising some of his own stories. We already heard one last week in his speech, Don't Come Back. Now he is returning to a different experience. Please welcome Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Stephen Morgan, with November's End, and a description of his project goals are on the agenda. Please welcome Stephen.
November 30th, 2000. That's the day I remember. You probably have another day, or in your life, some particular date sticks out. We all have one. It's typically some strong emotional moment, positive, negative, some massive change in your life. But the date sticks out. November 30th, 2000 sticks out for me. When I came into work that morning, my manager, Mark, happened to catch me saying, "Oh, good, you're in early. Can I talk to you?" Now, this wasn't unusual. I was team lead. He was the manager, and we would talk about a lot of things. He knew I came in early a lot. So sitting there talking with him, I even pointed out to you, hey, realize this actually is my anniversary. I started here 2 years ago on November 30th. And we've done a lot of stuff in that time. In fact, the story I told last week was one of those very incidents. And Mark saying, didn't know that. He's actually newer than me. But I had something to tell you, wanted to let you know, that we're going to be having an all-hands meeting this morning. But you're not going. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. That probably made you go and pause, didn't it? So everyone's going to this except for me. Well, actually, there were a couple others who also weren't going. But out of the 50-some within our department, 4 weren't going. Like, well, I thought I'd been doing fairly well, but nope, wait. Let me explain what's going on here. See, we had recently pulled the IPO from the company. You know, we tried to ride the .com wave. Didn't work out so well. And now our benefactors, well, really our investors, want to see us move to profitable. Because we've been burning through money like all the .coms that we're doing. Sad part about this is the company had been profitable before they tried to ride that wave. Well, as a result of this, in order for us to get to profitable, well, between our research and development and between our contracting wing, one of them makes money, the other one does not. So to find a way to get back to profitable, R&D is being cut. And that's where I worked. The all-hands meeting that morning was to tell everyone, this is your last day. I'm not going to the meeting because they're actually keeping me around. That story I told you last week, the miracle solution up at General Motors, right? That was the reason, one of the main reasons I was being asked to stay. Because if something went wrong and our big customers had an issue, they needed someone they believed could fix the problem. I happened to be that person. There are times when you go, it's great to be important. But that happens to not always be true. I'm trying to let all this sink in. I'm going, today? I mean, we just came out of Thanksgiving. We're going into Christmas holidays. Mark answered, yeah, I know. I don't like this either. It's just poor timing. But the fact of the matter is, tomorrow is the first of the month. And because it's the first of the month, the health insurance premiums are due. And we don't want to pay them. Can't afford to pay them, maybe. I don't know what the exact numbers were. So now I'm thinking, all my coworkers are going to come in. They're going to come into this meeting. They have no idea that this is coming. They're going to be told, this is your last day. Your health insurance is done tomorrow. Oh, have a good holiday. I was hating this more and more. When my friend Wendell came in, I didn't even let it get to him getting to the meeting. He's the one who recruited me. He was the best man at our wedding. No. I pulled him aside and let him know this is what's happening. He went, well, guess I better polish up my resume. And the truth is, all my coworkers were great at what they did. I had no worries about them finding other jobs. They did. They found them quickly. But you know what the hard part is where I sat? Is that I came in the next morning to an empty office. And I didn't have anything to do. I was only kept in case something went wrong. There wasn't any new programs to write because we completely cut out research and development. So I come into the office, I'm supposed to sit down and effectively twiddle my thumbs. Putz around on the internet maybe for 8 hours. Day after day. I'm getting paid well. I clearly was important. But this is not the way life is supposed to be. And the repercussions of that will continue on, ripping apart my first marriage, later impacting my career. And yet, you keep hearing them say, be good at what you do, be the best, make yourself important, invaluable, indispensable. No. Make yourself self-important. And remember that you never are isolated. You are always part of the people around you. These days when Thanksgiving rolls around, you keep wondering, it's good to be thankful for what's past. But what I worry about is, with Thanksgiving past, that means November's end is coming. And I wonder what that'll mean this year. And Toastmaster.
Mr. Timer, please put 1 minute on the clock. At this point, please use this sheet or a larger piece of paper if you like, and complete your comments for Stephen Morgan. I'm sure you would like to know his strengths as well as areas where he might improve the next time he stands up here.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'm going through a transition in my life, and part of the theme for this evening came from considering the type of person that I'd like to become, or the qualities that I'd like to have more of in my life. I want to be more generous. I want to be kinder. And I want to be more helpful to people. I also want to be less overbearing, demanding, and insensitive. Qualities I'm slowly giving up.
And you want to be president.
Well, I do want to be president. And I want to lead this club to an amazing place. To be determined later. Our second speaker this evening believes a great question we should ask ourselves is, what is the best way to live? He believes when we search our hearts, the generosity will be an answer we all hopefully come up with. So what does it mean? Please welcome Jonathan Dunn as he shares a story that will illuminate his own definition of generosity.
When I think about generosity, I think about my very own mother, Linda. She's one of the most beautiful people I've ever known my whole life. For the 44 years that I've been in existence, I've never heard my mother raise her voice, even one time. Never in my life have I picked up the phone to call her where she did not answer within the first 3 rings. So when she came down recently with some very severe back pain that wasn't alleviated by getting an epidural, she had to go into the hospital for some emergency testing. The C word was thrown around as a very serious possibility. As my mother was always there for me when she called me on the phone and asked me to come to her church that morning, without hesitation, I said yes. Of course, to know my mother, you would know that her church is her backyard, that she has lovingly built over the last 30 years. As we sat out in her church, surrounded by nature and the beauty, she remarked that morning how the squirrels just came and ran along the fence and gathered nuts, and how the woodpeckers just pecked on the wood, and how the animals just followed their natural instincts to survive. And how nobody told a squirrel, you're something besides a squirrel. How nobody told the woodpecker, you're something besides the woodpecker. And then she then brought up my own childhood, when my early morning ritual was to walk out of the backyard to this very same pool, with nobody giving me instruction. And I would lovingly bend down, save the bugs out of the pool, and release them back to freedom. And the ones that hadn't survived the night in the pool, I would take them over to my father's flower garden, and I would bury them. And then my mother and I would frequently take walks to the local duck pond. And the first words out of my mouth were always, can we bring bread to feed the animals? And of course, if you had been to my house in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, we always had a collection of stray cats that had become family members. Once again, the important part of this story is, I was really within my age of innocence still, and these were all very natural instincts that I followed. Instincts that would really, if we think about it, alleviate a lot of the suffering in the world. But of course, as we all did, I was sent off to school and I was educated. We can then fast forward to 1996, when I had all those things that I learned in school were so important. The dream car, the dream house, the dream wife. I remember as I was reflecting back on all these things, my mother said, "You were such a sweet, sweet little boy." Of course, those of you who've sat in this room have heard the rest of that story. that 1996 I was in that dream car, and I was in that dream garage, and I had the engine running. So how does one go from saving animals out of the pool to being in their garage with their car running? Obviously, I wasn't successful at that as I stand up here in front of you today. And I could come up with a million speeches as to what happened in between. But recently, I was reading a phenomenal story about Leonardo da Vinci and his painting of the Last Supper. And I said, that's my story. A very condensed version, so I want to share that with you here tonight. Leonardo da Vinci, famous painter, famous philosopher, famous inventor. But he made the decision one day that he wanted to paint the Last Supper. And he was going to take a phenomenal approach to paint this masterpiece. He wanted to find living people who in his mind embodied the characters that were in that painting. And he set out to find those people. He was at Mass in Vienna when he heard this beautiful voice emanating from the choir box. And he looked up and he saw this young man in his 20s, and he was awestruck. And he said, this man is going to be my Jesus in this painting. And he approached the man and he said, I'm painting this little masterpiece. Would you mind posing as my Jesus? And Da Vinci was famous in his time. He wasn't one of those artists that needed to die to become famous later on. And the man eagerly jumped at the opportunity. And for 3 days, Leonardo painted this man into his painting as his Jesus. And he quickly, over the next 11 months, he found his Matthew, his Mark, his Peter, his Paul, his James, his Thomas. And in 11 months, the Last Supper was almost completed. However, he was unable to find one of the disciples. And the disciple he couldn't find was Judas. And in case anyone in the room isn't aware of who Judas is, he's the one who in his greed sold out this beautiful person for the sum of 20 silver pieces. And Leonardo just could not find someone that fit that description. So the Last Supper went unfinished for not 10, but 11 years. Leonardo refused to compromise. Then one day, he was in the market, and he found him. He found his Judas. And this man that was walking, he had this hardened look about him. He had this just unhealthy feel about him. He looked angry. But Leonardo approached him, and he said, "Sir, I'd like you to pose in this painting." And the man recognized Leonardo, and he agreed to go back to his studio and be painted into this painting. Several hours into their session, the man began to weep uncontrollably. Uncontrollably. And Leonardo walked up to him, and he put his arm around him, like any good person would do. And he said, "Sir, if I'm doing anything to make you unhappy, please tell me. I want to help you stop crying." And the man simply responded, Master, don't you recognize me?" And Leonardo, he shook his head. He said, "I'm sorry, sir. Should I recognize you?" And the man said, 11 years ago, I posed for you in this very studio. I posed as your Jesus. We all have this Judas inside of us. We all have this Jesus inside of you, where you can call it the best version of yourself. I stopped celebrating that beautiful person inside for 20 plus years. But when I decided to celebrate that best version of myself that had been inside of me all along, I finally found a beautiful person inside of me, Madam Toastmaster.
1 minute on the clock, please. Write down your comments for Jonathan Dunn.
A minute.
All right, thank you. Several very specific experiences led me here today. One is, most of you know, our guests don't know, my mother passed away in February at age 99. And I took care of her for 11 years, and she was a Toastmaster, and we had many wonderful experiences together. And I've been reflecting on the lessons I learned from her and from taking care of her. Also, I have 1 month left as a district leader, and I have had one of the most fun years ever, mentoring other clubs, meeting other Toastmasters, and gathering ideas, and also learning how to be a more effective leader. I've learned a lot about teamwork that I didn't learn inside the club, or maybe built on some of the things I had learned, but the experience was completely different. And I'm also taking life coaching sessions with Jonathan, and he's given me a lot to think about. I'm 67 years old. If I live to be 99, I got a few years to fill in. And I want them to be wonderful years of productivity. So I'm making a lot of choices right now. I'm looking at a lot of decisions in my life. And part of this is how the generosity thing as well came about. Now I've scheduled a little session here for discussion. We only have a few minutes. And Roy, if you could give me, are we past time?
We are.
We are past time. All right, let me just set that up by saying Pardeep has started a conversation about how the meetings could be more effective. I'm trying to stay on time. I'm trying to put in to place today one of the most important reasons to have an effective meeting, which is to stay on our timeline, to start and end on time. So I'm putting a lot of attention on that. But there are other questions that he asked, and apparently he's gotten a lot of answers that weren't shared with the group. So we're going to continue, just like with the Moments of Truth activity that we've done in the past, we're going to continue to look and get everyone's input on how this can be more effective. On the back of your program, there's some practical ideas. And if you just read the Toastmaster promise, you will come up with a lot of ideas, because it really is about having a positive, friendly environment for us all to learn and grow, to treat ourselves with respect and courtesy, and the other members as well. And then I've got some specific acts of generosity that I came up with. Let's move ahead to the next section of our program. It's normally called Table Topics, and I am calling it the Gentle Master of Questions this evening. We have a Gentle Master of Questions, our Table Topics Master, who considers this segment of the meeting as the most fun. It is bringing a multitude of thoughts, which includes humor, entertainment, sometimes provocative, other times seriousness, as well as educational, all in 2-minute segments. Help me welcome Charlie Bombalier, your Table Topics Master for the evening.
Since the theme of tonight is generosity, I can pretty well tell you that we have a room full of benefactors in this Because everyone here has been generous. Since we have a limited amount of people today, I may have to call on a couple of people that have some roles, but we'll start. Let me start with Roy. Who is the most generous person that you know?
Who is the most generous person I know? I think that falls back close to home with family, right? So if we think about the context of family, my grandparents are an interesting story. They're almost complete opposites. One of my grandfathers passed away before I was born, right? So I've got my nanny side of the family, my nanny side, my dad's mom. And on the other side, I've got my grandmother, my mom's mom. And her husband, my grandfather, passed away when I was about 10 years old. So when I think of generosity, that really reminds me of my father's mother, my nanny. She's the one who my grandfather passed away before I was born. And this woman, she's just so simple. She kept the family together year after year after year after year. And when I saw how the other side of my family fell apart when my grandfather died, because of how my grandmother behaved and how she acted and her personality and the fact that she was not generous and she had a lot of selfish tendencies, it really made me, in perspective or in retrospect, really admire how much my nanny, how generous of a woman she was. Just simple. I could talk to her for hours. I could be 15, 16 years old, visit her house, and just talk to her about life for hours. She asked us questions that nobody else asked. And just have a nice, simple conversation. I'll remember those conversations forever. She would give you the shirt off her back. She had money, but didn't spend a dime. Always felt like she was broke. And really just she was that glue that really kept the family together for decades after decades after decades. And when she passed away a couple years ago, you can really feel it. We don't talk to our aunts and uncles and our cousins and our second cousins and everybody like we used to. Not everybody comes home for Christmas. It's kind of like that glue that held the entire family is gone. And I think just being that person to hold the entire family together all those years, just being simple, quiet, to me, the generosity of family, it doesn't get much better than that.
Thank you. Before I continue, would any of our guests be willing to take a shot at it after you hear a couple more? You would? Okay.
No,
right.
you don't have to.
How many unexpected gifts have you given in the last year? Susan.
Table topics, Master. How many unexpected gifts have I given in the last year? Well, at Christmas time and at birthday time and whatever, I try to give at least a couple of gifts that someone isn't expecting, and something that someone is not necessarily even sure they want, probably, especially the children. But in the last year, I know I've given some money to different people that have needed it. I have given little things, little makeup things to my girlfriends, little just little advice and being there to my daughter and talking with her. And these are gifts that you just can't get anywhere else. And they're actually gifts to me, because some little silly thing that I happen to see it when I'm out, and I think of my daughter, or I think of my best friend, or I think of my husband, and I think, oh, wouldn't this be something neat to just give them to know that I'm thinking of them. And that is what I have done. I have picked out little things, and they've never been real big or real splashy, but I have given them to my friends, my family, and they have appreciated it, and it has given me a lot of feel like I was able to be generous and give me a good feeling. And I think that's what I've done in this last year. Thank you, Mr. Table.
What does generosity mean to you, Gail?
Mr. Table Topic Master, I actually pondered that question on the way over here, trying to think, how would I describe or define generosity or being generous? And it dawned on me, like love. How do you define love? Generosity. How do you define generosity? It could be a tangible item. It could be an intangible item. For example, intangible. For those of us who have children and raise children, we want to be generous with our love. That's an intangible item. And how are you generous? There's many authors that say generosity of time for your children, generosity of your love, which is an intangible, or affection. But there's also a generosity that, to me, is the flip side of being a parent. In this very, very Madonna materialistic world, I see way too often, particularly here in this country, the over generosity of tangible items that parents think they are expressing their love or expressing their emotion for their children when they're just dumping and buying things, items for their children. How do you define generosity? Something like that. In another case, the generosity of, for example, what Susan did. It made her feel good. Her friends actually were generous to her for allowing her to reap the benefit of feeling generous in a very unselfish and a very intangible way. Yet, she was expressing generosity in a tangible way by giving little gifts, random moments, holidays, whatever. So I can't really answer your question, Mr. Davis.
Would like to give it a shot?
Not at this moment.
No worries.
Name ways you are generous with your time, Julian.
Thank you, Mr. Tables Topics Master. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I am not generous with my time. I am actually a miser with my time. I'm a consultant, so I've been trained to covet every minute of every day because time is money. We bill our clients just like an attorney, not by the minute, but by the 15-minute increments or something more reasonable. And I've learned that we have to be very careful with the only valuable resource that we have, and that is our time. Because every one of us here, doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump, Bill Gates, you only have 24 hours a day, 365 days in a year. And we have to be a miser with our time. And we have to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that, because if I do that, I'm not going to be able to do a better thing that I need to focus on. And so a lot of times we get distracted by everybody is pulling for our time. And I've learned that saying no is okay. I'm not embarrassed to tell you, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time to do that. Because I have a greater goal. Just think about the story of Jesus when his mother came to get him and said, no, you need to come home. He said, woman, I don't know you. Because he had a mission ahead of him, and he couldn't allow anything to distract him from that mission. Mr. Tabletop.
Do I have time for one more?
No.
That's it, okay. Please help me welcome our Toastmaster of the night.
Of the night.
Toastmaster of the night.
All right, let's backtrack and get a timer's report for both our speakers, our table topics, speakers as well, and we'll have voting for both of those areas. Let's welcome Roy again.
So for our speakers, Stephen spoke 7 minutes 20 seconds, he qualifies. Jonathan spoke 8 minutes 28 seconds, he qualifies. And for table topics, he was 6 to 8.
Oh.
We made an adjustment prior.
Adjustment.
Good thing, too.
We made a last minute adjustment.
Uh-huh.
For table topics, I spoke about my nanny for 2 minutes and 7 seconds, I qualify. Susan spoke about giving gifts for 2 minutes 12 seconds, she qualifies. Gail spoke about trying to define generosity for 2:28, she qualifies. And Julian spoke about being a miser with time and dived into Jesus for a hair under 2:30, I think it was 2:28, 2:29, so he also qualifies. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Please cast your ballots, and our ballot counter will be around to collect both any comments that you have for our speakers or any other of the people that had roles so far this evening. I hope you all feel like the benefactor of some extreme wisdom, kindness, and even love. And if not, the meeting's not over yet. Right. Our passionate critics for this evening, our general evaluator, has been a Toastmaster for over 11 years. She is a member of 2 clubs. During her time in Toastmaster, she has served as a club officer, area governor, division governor, all conference chair, and club coach. Also, starting July 1st, she will be taking on the role as Area 93 Director for the 2017-2018 Toastmaster year. She's very excited about being here this evening and sharing her thoughts and opinions with you. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Susan Morgan.
Everybody, and welcome. I am so excited to be here tonight to be your general evaluator. And what our general evaluator does is, first of all, our general evaluator will introduce our evaluators who will evaluate the prepared speeches that we had a little while ago. And I will also have our functionaries tell us all about what they did this evening and how we all did. And I will be telling how I think our meeting as a whole ran this evening. But first, what I want to do is start off with our evaluators. And our first evaluator tonight will be evaluating the speech of Stephen Morgan. Whatever you don't do, do what Julian Cotto did. Julian Cotto joined Toastmasters way back in 1987. It took him 6 years to complete his Competent Toastmaster Award and now the Competent Communicator. Then he quit. 20 years later, he rejoined Toastmasters. Julian will lament not having taken his original Toastmasters experience in the early days more seriously. He would have certainly been far better off if he would have just stuck with Toastmasters, been more diligent in completing projects, and participated in club leadership. Unfortunately, one can't go back in time and fix all one's mistakes. Tonight, Julian will redeem himself by evaluating the speech of one of Central Florida Facilitators' finest, Stephen Morgan. Please help me welcome Advanced Communicator Silver, Julian Cotto.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you've witnessed a masterful example of storytelling. A speech is segmented into content, organization, and delivery. Let me start with the delivery. Stephen's delivery was exceptional. He came up to the front of the room and he paused and he took his time, and then he gave us an introduction that immediately captivated our attention. The date was November 30th. You may have another date that may captivate your imagination, but his was November 30th. And then by throwing it back at us, it got us thinking about a date that really had some kind of significance in our lives. His hand gestures were very good. He made gestures as far as moving ahead, going forward, so on and so forth. He didn't move around a lot, but was very poiseful, and he did have great eye contact as he addressed both sides of the audience. The body of his speech, he delivered his story. He immediately explained what November 30th was about and why it was important to him. He introduced his boss, a character. He started describing the setting that he found himself in. We could picture that day who was in the office, what was going on with the conversation with his boss, with Stephen coming in early, and then the bad news that his boss gave him. It was a great example of storytelling where characters are introduced, the setting is described, but yet the storyline continues. And then at the end, he brought it all back around with his remembrance of Thanksgiving and how he reminisces about this story and maybe others. Great example of storytelling. Madam General Evaluator.
The red light off. Our second evaluator tonight is Jaye Majors, Advanced Communicator Bronze. Jaye tries every day of her life to build generosity into her approach to all who cross her path. Every day is important to do something nice for someone else. This makes her life happier and more fulfilled. Please help me welcome Jaye Majors to evaluate the speech of Jonathan Dunn.
We're
evening again, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and most especially that sweet, sweet little boy, Jonathan Dunn. Jonathan, I hope to be the benefactor for you of some praise as well as some nuggets of advice. I may not be your mother, but you will listen just the same. Jonathan was speaking tonight from the Competent Communicator Manual Project 3. Get to the point. We don't have any newer Toastmasters in the room tonight, but the objectives of this speech were to set a general and a specific topic, to organize a speech in a manner that achieved the purpose, to ensure you had a body, a beginning, a body, and a conclusion, to speak with sincerity and conviction, and try not to use notes in your purpose. Obviously, you nailed some of these. You always speak with sincerity and conviction. You never use notes. You never show any nervousness. You're up there in the middle of the room with eye contact with everyone, speaking from your heart. I felt like your tone tonight was just perfect for what you were trying to accomplish and for the stories that you were telling us. You weren't over the top. You weren't below where you were in the perfect zone for us to listen at the perfect tone in your voice. When you started the speech, you started out with a story, a very personal story, and I loved, for a change, hearing some of the positive, really sweet things about your childhood. You moved from there to a story about Da Vinci. I would have liked to have seen a little better transition of tying how your personal story in your life, the years of your life, were tied to how the years of the person who was Jesus and then was Judas, how they would tie together. You added something in between about the car in the garage, and I felt like that didn't really fit with the transition of the rest of the story. In the beginning, I was trying to kind of figure out what's the real purpose of the story, because that was part of your goal with this project. So it took me a while on down into the speech to understand. So maybe put something like that in the beginning. The two stories were beautiful. I loved how you took that Da Vinci story and brought it back around with the surprise in the end about Judas. That's what all keeps us going, looking for those surprises. So I think my area for you would be, give me the purpose in the beginning, give me something so I know where you're going and I can follow that trail. But fabulous job, loved the stories.
Thank you, Jay. And now tonight I get to introduce a new thing that we'll be doing, which is our Quizmaster. Should we get a timers report first? Let's get a timers report first for our evaluator.
Should I turn the red light off?
Oh, yes. Turn off the red light.
It's my middle name. Whoever red light would it?
Ooh, I like that.
Hey now.
We like it, right? Hey, we like it, right?
Julian Cotto, 323, he qualifies. Jaye Majors, 330 by the skin of her teeth, qualifies.
Okay, so everyone vote for Jay or for Julian.
It's a J.
And now I get to introduce our Quizmaster. Are we standing in our seat, or are we coming up here, or what are we doing? Standing? She can stand in
Standing in your seat.
So uh-oh,
She's gonna do it.
Oh, she's gonna stand on her seat. Okay, that works too. Please
bring
help
the
me
cheerleader
welcome Gail. Gail, yay.
Okay, timer. I am going to attempt this and hope you guys are practicing and sharpening your listening skills. Go. Remember, shout out. Unless it's about you. You were the one speaking. What age did Tony's mom live to? Oh, no.
99.
All right. How many table topics was our table topic master able to give tonight?
5.
4.
I haven't waited for it. On a different page.
What was Julian's topic all about?
Evaluator.
Not the one he answered.
Anyone?
Sensitivity to time.
Miser of time. Miser. What was Susan's new word tonight when she went to say bridge words?
Wurges.
Worges.
Worges.
Something.
Who was the main topic in Jonathan's speech?
Jesus or
Mark
Judas
Hamill.
or
Mark
himself?
Himself.
Himself.
His mother. His mother. Who was the artist that was
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. Yes, all right. Good. And how much time do you have?
30 seconds.
How many years lapsed when Julian first joined Toastmasters until he reached
20.
All right.
All right, good. Boy, you did great. You're way in time, so that's great.
That was fun.
Now I want to go through and get our reports from our functionaries this evening. So let's start with Roy, our grammarian. Please tell us how we did. And yeah, I never used said it after, so go ahead. I was trying to figure out how to get it in right there, and I couldn't.
Well, Jay Majors, she said fathoms, which I thought was great, but then I docked her some points because she said fathoms of stuff. So, fathoms of stuff. Potentially not proper. I heard a lot of ours versus our, ARE versus OUR from several folks in here tonight. Tony, thank you for clarifying educational versus inspirational because that would have gone way over my head. So clarifying. I think Susan already got knocked for Wurges. I believe the one that said standing on the seat.
Yeah, I probably did.
All right, so 2 for you.
In the seat is what he said.
Stand in the seat.
Gail, how do you define love? Thought that was crafty. John, I think I heard gonna talk versus going to talk when you're reading your speech. Julian, miser. I had not heard that word, but I looked up my phone, so thank you. And Stephen, indispensable. I think I just good use of vocabulary. So thank you all. Good night.
All right. And our awe counter, who was me at the beginning and is now Toni now. Please tell us what we did. No applause?
We need to have a sign, I guess.
Well, I had a bunch of, there were 6. Pardeep, 2, now I don't know if they're like Sans or so's, we've got a bunch in the bridge word category. Pardeep, 2, Stephen, 2, Dunn, 2, Julian, 4, Susan, 4, they were ands. Roy, 5 double clutches. And Gail, 1 double clutch. That's the report.
All right, thank you. Now, as your general evaluator tonight, get to tell you what I thought of the meeting. Well, we did start probably 2 minutes late, which isn't really bad. We did give a 2-minute warning, and then we were a little bit late. I think that it's a good thing to just go ahead and start as soon as we possibly can after that 2-minute warning. But we could probably recess. We've done that before if we think it's going to be more than just a minute or 2 that we can get to the meeting started. I would probably just say we're at recess for 5 minutes and get us all done. But we would really rather just start right on time. So let's hope we do that. Otherwise, I think this was a really fun meeting. We had 2 great speakers, 2 great evaluators. Our table topics were amazing. Thank you, Charlie, for those. I know mine was a big surprise for me and I loved it. So you come up with some very nice table topics. Our evaluators gave us some ideas on what our speakers could work on and also gave them their strengths. Thank you. I needed that word. I could not come up with it for a reason. So hopefully that was really well done, and I think that our meeting was extremely well done, and I would like to invite our president to finish up our meeting. So please help me welcome our darling Jaye to the lectern.
Most improved. We're missing the vote on the most improved, and I'm also missing the part of the most improved.
This is where
There's a little tiny one.
There was exactly one.
Where is
You go
it?
get it.
It was with, it's sitting
Oh,
right
it's
here.
just sitting there.
So if we could get the votes counted on most improved while we're doing some of the other stuff, that would be really great.
Give it to Pardeep. Thank you.
Thank you. That's for me, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that would be really great.
Just put your name.
No. Okay.
Last call for more people.
The first thing we need to look at is what is our agenda for next week? How are we doing with getting the roles filled? All right. Thank you.
And elections.
Yes, elections are this coming week. That will take up a bit of time, but we do have time for a speaker. And we have one, Pardeep.
Yay, Pardeep.
Oh yeah, we all working.
Can I ask a question?
I apologize. I input this into Easy Speak every time, and it's some reason it's not printing out when I'm doing these. So
Click save.
bear with me.
I know, if you don't click save.
Okay, we have two speakers, two prepared speakers for next week, Pardeep and Charlie, plus all of the 2 to 3 minute campaign speeches or acceptance speeches. We don't have a Toastmaster. We need a Toastmaster. Easy schmeezy, guys, easy schmeezy. The theme's already selected. Of course,
So you should do Evaluator.
think about it. J will be table topics. We need a general evaluator. We need evaluators at all the functionaries. Oh, guys, gals.
I'll evaluate.
Stephen will evaluate. Okay. And
I'll get you know, general evaluator.
Do we need table topics?
No, we won't be doing table topics.
I think we can,
Two speakers and table.
2 speakers and the campaign speeches?
and the campaign, I think we need to dispense with table topics.
okay.
Yeah, so wherever else you could, you might need me.
You want to be our Toastmaster? Since you'll have presiding?
I guess that'll be easy. I won't necessarily have a topic other than elections.
There you go.
You come up with something fun.
Yeah, maybe, I'll come up with something fun.
So we'll scratch table topic for
Yeah.
next week.
Am I down somewhere for Marion?
I'll do whatever functionary needs to be done.
Supervisor of election, I'll counter timer.
Okay.
Susan.
Love that timer, Susan.
I do love the timer.
Julian, will
It's
you
my favorite
be here next
position.
week?
I plan on it unless
Great.
something comes up.
Well, we're doing elections, so you have to be.
Would you like to be our supervisor of elections? And if you're not voted in as vice president of membership, vote yourself in?
Sure.
Sure, why not?
Secretary.
Okay.
I can rig the election.
Yes, we do need a. Okay, I can do that. I can preside for the elections
Yeah.
and release it to you when we're done. Okay, then, we are pretty good. Thought and lunch, anyone? We'll find somebody.
Susan, yeah, I can do it.
Oh, Susan?
I'll do it. Just remind me, so I don't forget when I walk in the meeting.
Very,
my thoughts tonight.
very good. Very good. And did everybody here see the sign up for the banquet for food?
The banquet is June 28th, and the club is providing the honey baked ham and the turkey from the honey baked ham as well. And everybody else will bring in side dishes, etc., desserts.
So what we
drinks.
have for the side dishes, we have a potato salad by Julian Cotto, a macaroni and cheese by Roy, broccoli salad, Susan, appetizer type foods by you and Pardeep, and chips and whatever else. So we need a few sweets and we need some beverages. I'll circulate this birthday cake.
Question.
Birthday cake.
Yeah, birthday cake.
What's at the club?
You know what, that's what we need to, yeah.
Or
birthday cupcake.
We also need a master of ceremonies. Is anybody interested in the master of ceremonies? Stephen?
Are you a vegetarian if you want it?
Yeah. I want you. Thank you for being so generous.
Master of ceremony, all right. Thank you guys and gals.
So that's perfect. Just see Gail, and if you can bring some food or email or what have you, let us know what that is. Okay? Any other things that we need to announce? We did the elections. Yes. Okay, as we come toward the end of our meeting, can I have our guests? Gail?
Yes.
I'd like to hear from
Unless you're signing.
our generous guests who did come to join us tonight to tell us what you thought of the meeting, and maybe we can help you. Each of you.
It's been a pleasure sitting in on the meeting. Had a great time so far. Personally, I struggle with public speaking. I do a good job at it eventually, based on presentations when I was in business school. But there's that lump in your throat. There's that tachycardia you feel, increased heart rate.
Absolutely.
So
That's a
I
good word.
certainly would like to feel more comfortable when I'm speaking publicly or presenting. So that'll be one objective I'd like to get sorted as we discuss our membership tonight.
You're part of the team.
I was just going to say what he said. This was good. I used to be in the literary and debating team back in high school. That was a long time ago. I have a long time I speak. But yeah, I certainly look forward to it. And I feel a lot of, positive energy in the room. I like that. So I look forward to more of that. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you both, and we welcome you back anytime. Please join us. Okay, now let's move on to awards. All right, the Tim Chastain Award, and for the guests, that's our club, individual club award. It's named after one of our founding members. And it goes to someone who's been doing some extra stuff or above and beyond that maybe they didn't sign up for or didn't actually plan on, and they decided they're helping us out through a transition. And that award is going to Charlie Bombolier. All right, the next award is for the most improved Toastmaster this week. That award goes to I didn't vote for I was up here when the voting was going on. See, Jonathan, you offered me the opportunity. Yeah, that sweet boy. The Best Table Topics Award goes to Roy Wittig.
You can save $50 later. The money promised.
Is it 20?
You gotta do a speech. Yeah, now you got that, you gotta do a
Let's
speech.
finish my season.
Yeah, get on the list. All right, Best Evaluator Award. Again. Yeah, I know. It's May 31st. What is this? Yeah, I know. Like the November date, right?
Both of them right me.
Best Speaker Award tonight, Stephen Morgan. And with that, we have 2 minutes. We are doing great. We are adjourned. No more interruptions.